the bombs that were being dropped in Vietnam. Each bomb, when it dropped, it would cover with flame an area of something like half of a football field. Anyone under that blanket would be incinerated and asphyxiated. Beyond that perimeter, the stuff would splash and stick to people's skin, where it would continue to burn for up to 10 minutes. Absolutely ghastly weapon. First used in World War II. It was used in the bombing of the firebombing of Dresden. In 2 appalling days in March of 1945, on consecutive days, about 1,800 tons of the stuff was dropped on the city of Tokyo, asphyxiating and incinerating 140,000 people. And then another 59 Japanese cities got the same treatment. In Vietnam, over the course of the years, not 1,800 tons, but 600,000 tons of napalm was dropped on Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. At that time, dropping napalm on civilians was against international law.
You know and I know there are people in this room who have worked for peace and justice longer than I have, more hours per day than I have, and so forth. And this just turned out by a freakish thing for me to have this tribute. I was lucky enough to find Wilf in Perth, Australia, and found Wilf then in San Jose, and wonderful San Jose people are here tonight. And then I was lucky enough to have a job in Santa Cruz, and if I was going to revitalize myself in Wilf, it would be Santa Cruz. And of course, that was very nice too. Our daughter, who is not here, in Indiana, Sarah, at the age of 8, she organized all the children on our block who were her age or younger. And she assembled them all, and she said, "And now I'm going to tell you why my mother did this." And she said, "My mother did this so children just like you and I would not get burned."
We grew up with the call to public witness, in that we would sit on the floor and write. We were the ones that wrote labor donated on the backs of all that you all carried. That was our job. We were so lucky to be born into such a moral compass. To be born into such a moral compass that our parents gave us.
One of the best things about Joyce is that she never used age as a reason for why she was telling me something throughout our work together. It was never about the fact that she had done this 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Joyce represents the best of what Wilf is, and it's her ability to communicate not just through our official channels, but our unofficial channels has really been the strength of the organization. It's our path in Wilf that we're all working towards. Thank you, Joyce.
The one constant of Joyce's life has been her commitment to fairness, justice, and peace. And this has been a commitment from the time that she was a student, through marriage, through raising a family, becoming an educator, running a business. It's just the constant of her life. To relive this event some 44 years ago, we go back to 1966. Lyndon Johnson is president. He is escalating the war in Vietnam after promising in his platform of 1964 that he was not going to send American boys to fight wars in Asia. He promptly turned around and sent them. Imagine this situation. Here's a car with 4 middle-class housewives, Joyce, Eileen Hutchinson, Beverly Farquharson, and Lisa Carvalage. They show up at a locked gate at a storage yard in Alviso. There's absolutely no one around. They just show up there in this car. They maneuver themselves around this locked gate, and they're dressed, dresses, heels, gloves, pearls, and picket signs. And on the other side, there's a forklift operator loading bombs, napalm bombs, onto a barge. So they go up to him, and they insist that he stop because he's committing a crime. He didn't really know what to do, but he disappeared to a telephone, and here they are. What happens next?
We had worked so hard in terms of planning this, okay? People would say to us, what if you go to jail? What if you get hit by the trucks? What if you do this thing risking arrest and no one will ever find out? Okay, no one will know. And of course, it turned out to be this very bountiful product in a way. All right, so when we walked up this hill, okay, it was a dirt hill and we were in high heels, and the picket signs were very heavy, okay, but we walked up, and at one point I said, this is like a crusade, and Lisa said it is. And later when I asked Eileen, why did you walk so fast? She said, I was so relieved that we weren't going to be hit by trucks. We had to rush up this hill. And when we got there, imagine a soccer field, and the bombs were sort of stored in piles of triangles. And this guy is on a forklift, and he's putting bombs one by one onto this barge. And we told him he was committing a crime and to get off, to stop what he was doing. You can imagine. He gets off and goes away. The first person who then appears after his phone call, obviously, was the police chief of El Viso. The newspaper said he had been drinking his regular morning coffee at a diner. We suspected from his order that his morning drink was something else. But nevertheless, he was right on, because when this forklift operator sort of thought that he now had permission to keep working, even if we stood in the way, he stood in front of us and, yelled at him to get off. The police chief called for help, and a bunch of cars of sheriff's deputies showed up. Okay, and the person who had the permit to store these bombs, and by the way, he had gotten the permit with the fact that he was storing commodities. Well, they had a little huddle, and then they came and said, please, just go away. Nobody will ever know. There will be no record. Go away, please. They were begging us to go away. It was really very funny. And at one point, the man who had to sign the order to have us arrested pleaded with us. He said, how can I face my wife if I've had you arrested? Yeah. Well, now, how do you face your wife with all these bombs, etc.? Anyway, they stood for many minutes begging us to please just go away. Meantime, the forklift operator comes back in his pickup. He gets out of the car with his dog. So here we had thought about all these things, being run over by trucks, God knows what else would happen to us. A dog, and it was a huge German Shepherd. And these guys are all there in a little huddle, a football huddle. Nobody's looking at us. We go, yoo-hoo, fellows. And finally they turned around and they locked the dog up in the pickup truck, and they locked the pickup operator up in one of the squad cars. Anyway, we were arrested. We got carried off. They promised to take good care of our picket signs. And of course, you're all handcuffed across like this, as if we were going to run away after working so hard.
Tom Wicker, who wrote a column in the New York Times stating that this was the point at which he had decided which side he was on. Pete Seeger heard of it. Pete Seeger wrote 2 songs, one memorable, one less memorable. He also wrote a letter to our children, which we haven't been able to find. Silence is complicity, and action is an antidote to despair. So